Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of my school leader interview series. I'm absolutely delighted today to be joined by Becca Staples, who is the head teacher of Dinnington High School in Sheffield. I'm going to be chatting to Becca about all things leadership, management, and being a person who is working in this wonderful British education system that we have and how we cope with that. So, Becca, just to start off with, I have my usual quick fire questions and then we go into the real stuff. So what's the first thing you grab in the morning?
Probably my allergy tablet so I can stop sniffling, to be honest.
Yeah.
Allergy tablet and a glass of orange juice so nobody thinks I've got COVID for the rest of the day.
Happy days, yeah. Who is your biggest inspiration in life?
That's a really tricky one. If you want, not many of them are living anymore.
That's okay.
So historical figures, it would have to be Boadicea and Elizabeth first, probably for pretty obvious reasons. Then it would be my great aunt, who was an amazing woman, way ahead of her time, learnt to fly a helicopter to take students up into the Arctic Circle, and whose motto was, "Life's too short to dust." Are you getting feedback on me? I'm getting some feedback.
No, I'm okay. I can hear loud and clear.
That's okay.
Is it bad feedback? Is it stopping you from answering?
No, it's not at all. Yeah,
Okay.
so Auntie Nora.
So what did your auntie do then? What was her?
She was an economist by training and was a lecturer in economics when not many women were lecturers at all. Very bright woman. Trained herself in botany and actually then also taught botany, had a license to collect seeds from around the world. Just taught herself new stuff all the time. Her husband was disabled. He had, I think it was Parkinson's. So she was the one who went out to work, didn't do much keeping. The rest of the family, of course, thought that was terrible because that's what women did in that time. But she just had the confidence to totally be herself. She wasn't always an easy woman, wasn't always easy to get along with, but we were the absolutely best friends, even though there was 60 years between us. And she just inspired me to be me. And she inspired me to not be held back by preconceptions of what women can and can't do, but also to do it with integrity and as myself.
Yeah. You mentioned integrity there. Is that something that's really important to you as a leader, would you say?
Absolutely. It's massive to me as a person. You've got to do the right things when nobody's looking. And you've absolutely got to stay true to what you believe in. And that's not always easy. And it can be incredibly hard sometimes, but it really, really matters to me.
What do you think it is that people notice about you?
Probably depends who it is. Definitely my hair. People remember me because of my hair. If you'd been on Dinnington Facebook forum, it would be the fact I wear bright shoes, clashing tights. Not quite true, but I dress like a peacock. Apparently, that gets noticed. I hope they notice. I hope my school knows I smile a lot. Might not be smiling inside, but I always try and smile and be positive and be cheerful, and put that energy into the school every day. And if you're in a theatre acting a funny play, you probably notice that I snort when I laugh.
Nice. And what do you hope people notice about you?
I hope they notice my integrity, my positivity. I hope they notice that I try to notice them, and I try to seek out the people who might be unnoticed. I hope they know that I genuinely care, but genuinely care doesn't mean giving excuses. I hope they notice that actually, in many ways, I'm the same with staff as I am with children.
Yeah, that's brilliant. What would you say? What would you say your biggest weakness is?
Right, if you ask my PA, my husband, it's utter untidiness. But even when I have visitors, I really do tidy up. But actually, that's part of me prioritising. I can't do everything. I work very long days. My husband has disabilities. I come home, I do things that have to be done. So I prioritise, and tidiness is not a priority for me. So I think that would be noticed. I think my counsellor would tell you that my fatal flaw is I try and look after everybody, and you can't always look after everybody, and adults have to look after themselves. So I think that's another fatal flaw that I have. I could probably come up with quite a long list. And the third one would probably be sometimes I don't know when to just stop and say enough is enough. I've given up being a perfectionist. I gave that up when I was a journalist. You can't achieve it. But there's sometimes I should just stop sooner.
So you were a journalist before going into teaching?
I was really determined not to be a teacher. I was never going to be a teacher. Why would you want to be a teacher? My parents and my stepdad were teachers. And the careers teacher at school, who I had little respect for because she taught the most boring of lessons, told me I'd make a great teacher. Definitely not going to be a teacher then.
So what made you ditch the journalism then?
I ended up being the person that trained the new people, so I became a teacher really within my job, and it's just built into me. I mean, if I'm honest, at 5 years old, other little girls might be pushing dollies in prams round on the pavement. I had them sat round my mother's sewing box teaching them. It's just in my blood.
Yeah, got you.
But I didn't prove I could do something other than teaching.
Yeah. What's your biggest strength then? If we've said your weakness, so what's your biggest strength?
I'm phenomenally resilient. I know I've got phenomenal resilience, and you can't keep me down. I have a huge inner strength, but I don't think I'm hard. I think I'm strong, and that comes from years of many hard knocks and many challenging situations. But I will always come back up. So I think that's a strength and really needed in headship at the moment. I think the other one is I will fight for what I really believe in, and I will really seek to do the right thing by people.
That's brilliant. What's the one personality trait that you don't have any time for?
Probably got quite a few by now. You get older, really. Arrogance, narcissism. Absolutely detest any, and there are narcissists in education, and that upsets me. Can't bear it. Can't bear arrogance. You know, it's unnecessary. If you're good at what you do, you don't need to shout about it.
Yeah, and I think one thing for me that stands out, because I've obviously followed you for quite a long time on Twitter, and one of the things that made me actually interested in interviewing you is the fact that, and I want you to take this in a really I'm nobody, do you know what I mean? But I'm just an observer, is that you're not someone who's like always kind of like, you don't exhibit any arrogance, in my opinion. Like you don't exhibit any, like you're quite like, you strike me as someone who's really down to earth. That's the perception. That's the perception, that you give. I think that's being confirmed in this interview, to be fair. Comfortable silences or non-stop conversation.
Yeah, when I was watching some of your old interviews, that's a really tricky one because it depends on the situation. So I love getting to the point in a friendship or a relationship where you are totally comfortable in the silence. And I'm very silent at home. I'm very, very quiet at home. But also, I know I can be guilty of filling the silences too quickly in new situations, and I can be the chatterbox, the social butterfly. I can do, so it depends on the situation. I'm very comfortable in silence. I'm actually very comfortable on my own. But then also, I love people. So sorry, I've not got a binary answer on that one. Sorry.
That's a cop out. That's a cop out answer.
Sorry. Okay, if I've got to choose one, it would. Oh, so hard. On a Friday, it is definitely comfortable.
Okay, we're going to move on now to kind of more teaching and leadership questions. So, what's the most embarrassing thing that's happened to you in class as a teacher?
It was in the same year, and both times in front of the head teacher. So it was when I was head of English. And they both involve women's boobs. So just that's the forewarning. So the first time, I was teaching Romeo and Juliet to my top set English group, and the head teacher came to the door and came in as I was just Zeffirelli, Romeo and Juliet, and I froze it on the point where her tits are bare. And then following him in was my old head teacher from my previous school. Total swallow me up now moment. The best bit is I don't think they noticed. Nothing was ever said. The class sat there sniggering. So that's number one. Then number two, same class, same classroom. Teaching about hyperbole. I guess I'm an English teacher, so teaching about hyperbole and trying to get them to really get what it means. So I was relating it to the fact that it's a bit like a wonder bra. It kind of enhances whatever you're trying to make a point about. I've drawn a bit of a picture on the board because if you want teenage boys to remember things, this works. It really is an explanation for hyperbole. And guess who walks through the door? But my head teacher again.
The same one?
Yes. Same class.
But how did he react? He didn't react in any way.
He didn't notice no, but I did try and stand, so I was kind of blocking the worst of the picture on the board.
Oh my God. That is awful. I suppose this is slightly more serious, but perhaps not, because it could still be comedic. What was your worst day as a head teacher, and what was your best day as a head teacher?
My worst day really was a terrible day. It was a Sunday a few years ago now. I was head at my last school, when I got the phone call to say that 5 of our sixth forms had been killed in a crash. Oh God, absolutely just dreadful. I can't begin to put into words what that felt like. I was really quite poorly. I'd planned to spend the day in bed to hope I was going to be well enough for the Monday. And I was trying to pull on clothes, thinking, right, I've just got to get to school. I knew I had to get to school because we're very much community school. And my prediction was that kids would come to school even though it was Sunday. And I managed to contact my deputy. So she was on her way. My safeguarding officer was on her way. We managed to get a message to the staff, and actually can't believe how many staff came. And then I had to really think, do you know what, the press will turn up. 5 kids dying in a crash, the press will turn up, so I better make sure I've got a black look appropriate when I'm on a camera. So having all these conflicting thoughts in your head, and that it was a terrible day, but our sixth form common room was bursting at the seams with children, their parents, staff, phenomenal. And the way the school rallied was phenomenal, but the impact of that was absolutely devastating. We were due an Ofsted monitoring visit because we were in special measures, and that got delayed. Did that message later on in the Sunday to make sure, because I really was thinking I might get the phone call the following week. So that was put on hold. The impact on staff and students was horrendous. Both 2 significant middle leaders had breakdowns, lots of staff off. Worst day in headship, followed by the hardest 2.5 terms of headship, really, wasn't it? But nothing is worse than that.
Yeah, there's a comment there I've just put on, so you can see it. But I think that's true, isn't it? It's the emotional toll of leadership can't be understated.
Yeah, and they're characters. So I had to go to Silver Command meetings at the council. We had to plan the funerals in a big scale. So the council were amazing because we said there's going to be at least 1,000 at every funeral. So they were even monitoring the traffic lights, so every funeral procession went really smoothly. It was a huge organisation, and that's going on, and everybody's leaning on you, and there's emotional grenades going off right across the school because kids don't know how to cope. We were going to funerals, we were doing memorials in school at the same time for the children who couldn't come into school. It was, I can't begin to tell how hard it was. And then in the very last, this is where the humour may come in. So in the very last 2 days of term, I was catching up with the hundreds, thousands of letters and cards we got. And I sat reading a letter that had just been written to me. And it was from an old miner. And I come from a mining family before we were teachers. So it was like my granddad was writing to me through time. And he just wrote this lovely letter, kind of just saying, you've done really well and it must be really tough. And my heart goes out to you. I lost my own child. So feeling for the families and all the rest of it. And I'd been so strong up to that point. And then I just flooded in tears. I just sat absolutely flooded in tears. And the next person through the door was my male deputy head, Ben. Great guy. Really tall, really a young man in an old body in many ways. He was a great guy, but not great with emotion. So he walks through and he sees me just sat floods of tears, and he just, the look of panic on his face, like, what do I do now? So shall I get, is Kathy here? That's my PA. No. Yeah. Oh, I'll get you a cup of tea, Becca. I'll get you a cup of tea. And then apparently left the room and rang the 2 female deputies and said, "Quick, get to Becca's office."
Oh my God. That is tough though. On a serious note, that is really tough. Yeah. Is that, so that was your previous school then?
Yeah, that was Dana.
Yeah. Okay. Was that in Sheffield as well?
Doncaster.
Okay, Doncaster. Yeah. You choose some proper salt of the earth areas, don't you?
They do. Yeah. I go to schools that are in difficult circumstances. I actively do that. People think I'm absolutely bonkers. And I couldn't do a third one because it takes everything out of you.
Yeah.
But it's the most fulfilling job in the world.
I mean, presumably you mentioned the previous school was special measures, rated special measures or whatever. Did you know that when you went there? Did you know it was going to?
It wasn't in special measures when I went for the interview, but reading all the information, the data, walking around the school, it was very clear it was going to be special measures. And my wish was that if it was going to happen, I wanted it to happen right at the beginning of my headship, because that gives you your mandate for leadership. So it was third week of headship. We were in the middle of deputy interviews, and it arrived.
That's mad. And this is the thing with data. I mean, do you believe that you can? This is probably a silly question, but it's something that I feel strongly about. I mean, do you believe that you can significantly change data? Make the data better within a year or within 2 years? Is it a lottery? Is it more of a lottery, or is it actually
complex? It's really complex. You could do it really quickly if you know the tricks to play, but actually there are far fewer tricks you can play now than there ever were. And I've never ever. That's not no integrity in that, is there?
Yeah.
So I was always very clear about, I'm not going to do quick tricks. This is about building a solid base. Getting, so get the right level of care in a school, the supportive scaffolding care, not the excuses care. Then put on top of that really good, solid teaching and learning without the gimmicks, proper teaching and learning. And then the improved results will follow. That's not a 2-year strategy. It's not a 1-year strategy, obviously. So I think it's on the 3rd year you begin to see that turn, and we did. So the 3rd year was when we hit progress rate of 0. Our results had come up by, I think, about 18% on the basics. And actually the same would have happened in Dinnington this summer. So that's really hard because we can't shout about it because of what happened with the exams. But for me, you're going to get to that point at 3 years, and then you can keep building upwards. Now, give me a load of money, I can get in all the one-to-one tutors you like, and I can do something that will make it quicker. But it won't be based on the right thing. It will be a sticking plaster, and I just don't believe in that, and I never have. So you've got to start getting it right. Well, pre-transition really, but at least from year 7, you've got to get it right. Your Key Stage 3 curriculum really matters, because you're building something of substance, and you're teaching, your teachers in Key Stage 3 have got to be as good as your teachers in Key Stage 5. When I arrived at Dagenham, the middle leaders tended to teach Key Stage 4 and 5. It was a split site school as well. And therefore, we brought in that you had to teach on both sites. You had to teach Key Stage 3, Key Stage 4 and 5, because you've just got everything has got to work and be done properly. So no quick fixes. That means it will take longer. So I didn't get from special measures to good in 2 years, because I was trying to build something that would last forever. Now what happened next is a different story, and can't probably say everything on this interview. But again, we're at that point in Dinnington. I'm so proud of our staff. They're phenomenal teachers. And I know if I picked them up and put into a school that was full of children from leafy suburbs, that results would be considerably higher. They're doing a really tough job. And we don't, because I'm so inclusive, we have 20 odd kids that we don't PX. We put in our own alternative provision. We don't follow a traditional curriculum. We do what's right. We do what's right by them and the community. So that pulls a 0.2 pull downwards on my data year on year. So, it goes back to integrity.
Massively. And that's what's frustrating hearing you say that. Is often in the past and probably now as well, from recent reports I've read, is how Ofsted kind of almost penalise people like yourself and staff bodies in schools like this. There's still this going on. I know they've got the new framework and everything, but it's still going on. There's still a definite disadvantage for teachers and staff who work in disadvantaged areas. I mean, it's still going on. It astonishes me in a way. It's just so unjust, and I don't see how you can defend it. To be honest, I don't understand how you can defend it. It's easy to defend it if you're not there, and if you're not the one like yourself or the staff. That's easy to defend it and say, well, we want good schools and we want this, we want that. But until you're in it and you're doing it every day, and you're not kind of comparing to, like you say, the leafy suburbs or the whatever the schools are, the grammar schools, whatever, there's different schools, but you can't compare, and they do compare every time. So it's just, I don't get it. But anyway, that's my rant's over now. I've had my rant.
But let me give you the best. Because it does come from an Ofsted report, interestingly. It's not the Ofsted report that was the best moment. It's what it reflected that was the best moment. The last Ofsted report at Dagenham before I left had in a line that at Dagenham, children feel safe to be themselves. That's what I want to achieve. If you're safe to be yourself, you feel comfortable and cared for. It'll be okay to work and work hard and be successful. It will be okay to trust the people around you. It'll be okay to reveal if there's something about your gender. It'll be okay to say if something's going wrong at home. If a child is safe to be themselves, and if a member of staff is safe to be themselves, then that's just brilliant. So that, for me, that line for me is the most important line in my career.
Yeah, I love that. When you're hiring teachers, what kind of things do you look for, and what is the perfect candidate?
Oh, well, first of all, the perfect candidate doesn't exist, does it? None of us are perfect. I look for passion about children and education. It doesn't have to be a loud passion, but it has to be a passion. I look definitely for the integrity. I look for that true understanding that it's all about relationships at the end. Only they're going to be able to form relationships with our children. I mean, Dinnington's a really comprehensive school. So we do have advantaged children in living in lovely, huge houses. We have children living in really difficult, poor situations. And actually, it's about getting those children. So my highest performing A-level lad, not this summer, the summer before, was a pupil premium boy. That bucks the trend, doesn't it? So I want them to get our children. I want them to get that you've got to work hard to connect to them, but once you've connected to them, they'll be them. and they will let you work with them. So they've kind of got to get that, and they've got to get the school. They've got to believe in being inclusive. They've got to show me that behaviour is telling us something. Sometimes they're just telling the kids got been a bit of a naughty one and that needs dealing with, but actually often it's telling us something more complex with that. So they need to show me they understand that, which takes us back to relationships. And then the other part of the passion has to be about the subject, because children, you've got to be the advocate subject in the classroom. Children have got to believe you think it is the most important subject in the world, and that will come across in your teaching. Because if you're a passionate teacher, if you really bothered about knowing children well and having strong relationships with them, and you're willing to learn about how to be the best teacher you can be, you don't necessarily come fully formed to each school, then I've got somebody who will become a Dinnington teacher for life.
Love that. So in just to dig a bit deeper there, you're mentioning about, I mean, do you buy into, because we've all almost got this dichotomy now, and I saw it this morning when I read an article in The Guardian about zero tolerance. There was an article this morning saying about a school who basically have gone for this. There's basically a dichotomy developing between trauma-informed behaviour management and on the other side, kind of zero tolerance and none of the above kind of thing. If that was like a spectrum, where would you sit on that spectrum?
Towards the trauma-informed. So definitely 100% not zero tolerance. Absolutely not. For so many reasons. But nor would I expect my teachers to put up with a class where the child is repeatedly disrupting the lesson. You can't teach like that. So we do remove children. We give them 3 chances. And we talk a lot about how you even give those chances. So you're not just going to yell C1. You're going to say, I don't want you to do that because that diffuses the situation. So 3 chances, and then we will remove you from the classroom, and you'll go to our C3 room, which at the moment has to be in the hall, so we can space everybody appropriately across year groups. But it's the what happens next that's important. And that's where it's going to be different for different children. Just try and dig out why it went wrong in the classroom. And by doing that, you can find anything. You can find the child that's been hiding the fact they can barely read. You can find the child who's lived through a horrendous series of childhood experiences that they need help with. You can find all manner of different things. You might just find a child who's in the mood to be naughty. But if you don't ask why, then the sanction doesn't change things, detention doesn't change things, and no child should be behaving out of fear. So it's about understanding the child. Do you need to reflect as a teacher? You know, I'm teaching, for the first time in my career, I'm teaching year 7 music at the moment. And full of admiration for music teachers, let me tell you. And I got really frustrated one lesson because it was hard to manage them. And then I stopped and I thought, okay, they're just not actually getting it. I've pitched this too high. I've assumed too much about what they really knew when they came from primary school. So I've taken it all the way back, and I'm doing it in baby steps, and the behaviour's changed. You know, so you've got to ask yourself questions. You as a teacher have got to be bothered. You've got to be bothered to find out more. And you might not be able to solve the problem, but you've also got to, you're the adult, you know, and the adults change and all that, but you're the adult, so you're the one that's got to ask the questions. They're a developing child. The grey matter in their head is not fully developed. Might have, you know, a misformed brain because of the traumas they've been through. This is just science. So find it out and work out if you can do something as a teacher or if you need to pass it on. And you do get to the point. I don't think I'm any different now than I was as an NQT. I would say my classes knew when I was an NQT that I was really bothered about them, but don't you be late with my homework unless you've got a phenomenal excuse. And I teach with a split-side school. My other ex-other half worked on the other side, and he'd heard 2 lads, big tough lads, coming down the stairs saying, "Have you got Staples homework?" No. Better get that sorted, mate. But the same time, I'd also have children that know they could come and talk to me and know that I'd support. And so, oh God, that's a really long answer. Does that answer the question?
It does. I enjoyed listening to it. It wasn't too long for me. Where do you think new leaders go wrong?
Oh, assumptions. They forget to listen. They think everything they've done before is the answer in the new school. I've certainly done that myself. Think you've got to have all the answers. And in fact, probably wise words from a former head of me said, if in doubt, do nout. And I was always quite confident about that as a new head. I won't be pushed into making snap decisions. So yeah, you've got to listen.
I think I've done all of those that you've just mentioned. I think yeah, probably about 3 times over, you know. But anyway, what percentage of you in work is an act?
It depends on the days. So almost all the time, I'd say there's no act at all. What you see is what you get. But if I'm having a really bad day, if there's something really difficult happening at home, or if staff have just driven me mad because I asked something to happen and it hasn't happened, I really hope they don't see it on my face. I really hope that I am swan-like. Well, I'm ever a calm, steady. I think there's always quite a lot of energy around me, but I hope they don't see that on my face. I hope my PA sees it. So my PA will say, what's wrong? And I might have to stand up and swear a lot or sit with my head in my hands or even cry. But I really hope that what they see is me being positive, because most of the time I'm actually remarkably upbeat. Not much gets me down.
Yeah, I can see that. And this is the last question now, Becca. This has gone fast, this interview. What does success as a school leader look like to you?
When you can walk away and it still happens. That you don't need to be in the building for it all to go really smoothly and really well, because people understood your vision. They signed up for your vision and they've started living it with integrity. So I don't need to be in the building for people to do the right thing, for children to be taught well, for children to be cared for well. So actually success as a leader is I could disappear. I don't want the glory. I've actually found agreeing to do this has been really hard.
Why?
Because it's not about me.
Yeah, but I think you've got to get a balance, haven't you? Because you know you have achieved a huge amount, and and that's why I've asked you to do. Do you know what I mean? Like that's why I've asked you to do the interview. I just think it's not about glory, is it? It's just about like the fact, you know, like not everyone could do your job. Like that's a fact.
No, but neither can I do all of their jobs. I mean, I have done loads of jobs, so don't get me right. My journey, back as an 18-year-old, I was cleaning urinals that didn't flush. I've worked in reception, I've worked in admin, not in schools, in other businesses. So I have tried to do a really, really important to me that I try and walk in other people's shoes. That's the English teacher. That's Atticus Finch, To Kill a Mockingbird. But walk a mile in another man's shoes. I try really hard to do that. But in my school, there are people doing things I would not be good at. That's why it has to be matrix leadership, doesn't it? And it has to be everybody is the sum of the many parts. And I've got a phenomenal site manager. He is so good, and he sees things and he sorts things and he leads so well his team. Yeah. I couldn't do what he does as well as he does because of the skills he brings to it. So, and I say to my extended leadership team when we sit around the table, I'm not sat in this room as your boss. We're all equal thinkers in this school, and things that happen in our school can come from anybody. We're not precious. We don't mind who has the idea. We'll take any idea, we'll shape it, we'll form it, we'll make it right for our school. So it shouldn't be about it shouldn't be about your head. I know I do get heads are important because I've worked for good ones and bad ones, so I do get that. I do get it's an important job, and it's an honour to serve and to do it, and to try and do it to the best of your ability. But really, you want to build people up. You want to grow the next leaders. I'm only going to be ahead for a relatively short time in the story of Dinnington High School, but I want Dinnington High School to be a success forever. I want it to be at the centre of its community. I want the community to grow and get stronger. So I've got to try and grow all the people that will achieve that, and who will recognise the people that can join the organisation in years to come and make it the best it can be. So it's...
There you go. I'm just going to keep putting praise up, so then you can't get away from it, you know.
I'm hopeless at taking compliment. I know I'm hopeless at it because I'm a bit speechless, actually. That's rare. Yeah. You try and build the people around you. I was asked we do some training with our new extended leadership team, and I was asked what my style of leadership is. And your style of leadership actually depends on what you're leading, where you're leading it, and who you're leading. And if you can't flex your leadership style, then you shouldn't be a leader. So I have, when the school's in special measures and difficult things happen, as I mentioned earlier, you have to command the ship. You have to be saying, right, we're going in this way. Get on board, follow me. We're going this way. I'm leading it in this direction. And if you can't put up with that, you're going to have to go. And you have to be encouraged to command.
100%, yeah.
Then, 100%. And I think I'm really getting to that point now where I am. It's all about coaching the other leaders. So my vice principal's been with me 2 years now. My job is to do everything I can to make her a great successor and to work with her. And fortunately, she's like a sponge and wants to learn and develop and as much as she can. And it's about looking at your leaders and thinking, right, who's ready for that next step of leadership and how can I develop them? And if something's not quite working, why is it not? It's just like children, really, isn't it? Why is it not working? What's not understood? What do I need to do? Do they need a bit more training? Do they need a kick up the backside? What is it they need to be the better leader? And then they can do that. And it, you know, my dad, the other great inspiration in my life, my dad, he died 4 days after I got the job at Dinnington. And I nearly didn't go for the interview.
Really?
He said, Becky, you've got to go. And he knew I really cared. He came from Staveley, which is just down the road from Dinnington, another mining town. He knew I was trying to get to a place where I was kind of going back in our family history in a way, and I wanted to make that difference. And he said, you've got to go for the interview. And I said, right, the deal is, Dad, I'll go for the interview if you live to see me succeed. And so he lived down in Guildford. So I came up for the interview. First day, he really was so very poor. And he was really struggling because I'd nursed him for 7 weeks by then as he was slowly dying. And we had such a bond, my dad and myself. And we had this phone call and I said, come on, Dad, you've got to rally for another day. I need to get back to you. So I got back to him with my bottle of champagne because by the time I went back down south, I knew I'd got the job. And he'd got my grandma's old sherry glasses. And he'd got a tiny sherry glass, and he had the tiniest little glass of champagne. And so I've still got the glass, it sits on my shelf. And then the day after that, we took him to the hospice. Days later, he very gently passed away. But he was an amazing teacher, an amazing man, and a phenomenal, probably one of the best teachers I've ever known. And he always said, you've just got to pass it on. Whatever it is, pass it on. Whatever you're good at, pass it on. And that's what he did. And all the children that he'd taught and connected and grown, and the teachers two women said to me, he built up female leaders. He got women to believe in himself. Because I think he's got a single daughter and he wanted me to be successful. He was, a great push behind me. But he said he got us to believe we could be successful and we were worth we were worth being leaders in our own rights, and he just wanted to build people up and pass it on. And his friendship group was enormous, from the chap who came and did his garden to people who were successful in business, because he just looked for the good in people. He looked for people with integrity, whatever they did, and he sought to appreciate and value who they were as individuals. And he took that into his job, and I try to do that in my job.
That is such a fantastic story. Becca, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. Really glad that I invited you onto the school leader interviews. It's been fantastic. So thanks very much. And anybody watching, thanks for watching as well. And this is going to be on YouTube, Periscope, and Facebook as well. And so thanks very much. And I'll chat to you in a bit.
Great. Lovely. Thank you. Take care.
Bye.